Okay. Hey everyone, how's it going? CDY Blackout, Max Bowen live at the 7th Annual Rhode Island Author Expo. This thing is ongoing until 4:30 p.m., so if you're in the area, Rhode Island Road's on the boat exit, come on down and you can meet my next guest. I'm joined by author Emily Tallman, and she's got a very wonderful series of books out now, which, as I understand it, really came from a very personal place.
Yes, I suffer with mental illness. I have obsessive compulsive disorder, chronic depression, and anxiety. And it's something that, I have to live with every day, and that a lot of people in America right now suffer through every day. But there's not really much pop culture in a positive light. So I decided to try and end the stigma by writing a book series called The Monsters Within.
Okay. Yeah, because we were talking about this earlier. In a lot of TV shows and movies, if you have a character who has a mental illness, in some cases it's almost like a superpower for them. It allows them to do, okay, I have OCD, so I can notice every single solitary thing. But what's the reality of having these mental illnesses?
Well, for everyone it's different. There can be what you would call a superpower through them. OCD definitely helps me keep my life organized.
Okay.
But it is also a curse. If I'm not doing everything in the order it needs to be done, then it's very challenging to just get through the hour, let alone the day, the week, the month, the year.
Okay. All right. So tell me about your two books here. You've got one called Life in the Shadows and Caught in a Lie, which I will show you all. You can see them. Some wonderful cover work there.
Thank
you. Which one came first?
Life in the Shadows came first. It was more towards my personal experience as a way to bridge the gap and enter into this world. It deals with depression, suicidal ideation, and anxiety, but in a very realistic light, in a very hopeful light. Not trying to give anyone those kinds of dark thoughts, but to show that you can live a successful life with those thoughts. As a kind of bridge into fiction, I pair the character with shadow people to make it a ghost story and be a representation of that dark, suppressing force in your life.
Oh man, ghost stories. No, not about that. I still want to read it though, actually. I still want to read it. But how does the characters' mental illnesses play into the story? Is it just kind of like a part of the character and they just sort of deal with it as the story progresses? Or does it become more like a defining factor for the story progression?
It's definitely a defining factor.
Okay.
Without her depression, she wouldn't be able to see the creatures that she's interacting with. They're definitely a representation of this mental illness and something that just afflicts her and that the people around her don't understand the same way that many people don't understand mental illness or kind of diagnose it as different things. But not every book in the series is a ghost story. They are all different. They're all going to be standalone novels with their completely different cast of characters and genres and reading levels. The first two are meant for adults because they are dark themed, but there will be children's books out there as well trying to help kids with mental illness too.
Oh yeah, because I imagine that for kids, it's a struggle to even figure out what they're going through because they don't have the context that adults have.
Oh, definitely. And children and young adults are so empathetic that even just bringing them into the world of studying mental illness, they can sometimes relate to it too much and absorb it a little bit.
Sure.
So personally, when people ask me, oh, my daughter has depression, she's only 16, would this book be okay for her? I kind of step back a little bit. It's something I would definitely want her to read later in life. I think it's a very realistic depiction of my type of depression, but I would never want those dark thoughts in someone else's mind.
Yeah.
I want this book to be about hope and getting out of it, not making someone's problems worse.
Okay. Tell me about other characters in these books.
Okay. The first book stars Livia Moss. She is a nurse in New England, in Boston. She just finished going through some major changes in her life, and so her depression is kind of peaking a little bit, and that's where these ghosts come in. She has to figure out if they're all in her head, the same way her mental illness is, or if they're actually real out there and she needs to do something about it.
Wow. Jeez, that's actually something I've never heard of before. Wow. Okay, and Caught in a Lie.
Caught in a Lie. Show that pretty picture.
There we go.
It's actually being released this Friday the 13th, but you can get it today as a special for the Expo.
Releasing a book on Friday the 13th.
Life in the Shadows was as well. It's kind of become a lucky tradition
Great
for
marketing.
us.
Great marketing, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, Caught in a Lie, like the title, deals with compulsive lying.
Yep.
And it's probably a hard thought to imagine someone who constantly lies as being a hero or having like a lightness to their life, someone that you can relate to. Who would want to be a liar? But it's really more about understanding why they're lying, what this compulsion is, what's their background, what makes them do it, and how it impacts their daily life. And this too is a bit of a mystery. The character, her supernatural element, is having ESP. So she's trying to solve a murder, but her broken relationships, because of all these lies in her life, are making it really difficult for anyone to believe her. It's a little bit like a new take of Peter Cried Wolf.
Yeah. And so basically every time she tries to tell folks what is going on, she just lies. It's just like a knee-jerk reaction for her.
Exactly. And there's always a connection in her life. She's trying to tell the truth. She's trying to bridge the gap, make connections, make friends, relationships, try and have a career. But when she gets a little nervous, a little anxious, a little stressed, she can't help but stretch the truth.
Okay. What do you think are some of the misnomers or the stereotypes that people have about those with a mental illness? And as a follow-up question, do you see this a lot in books and TV shows?
I think that one of the major perceptions is that it's just this dark, malicious thing. Nobody wants to have depression or anxiety. Nobody wants to let it control their life. And just because you have it doesn't mean that you're this dark or dangerous person. And I think that is what pop culture kind of targets right now with our current kind of violent climate in the country.
Sure.
And just making interesting villains, like you mentioned before. One of the easiest ways to make someone really interesting is to twist their mind a little bit, make them think a little bit differently than everyone else. But unfortunately for people like me, just because you think a little differently doesn't mean you think malicious thoughts or thoughts that want to take over the world. You just see the world through maybe gray-colored glasses instead of rose.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about the cover art for these two books, which is, again, awesome, folks. Check them out. How about that, huh? That's some good cover art. How'd you go about getting these? How'd you go about getting it?
Well, I actually work with a graphic designer that's local to Rhode Island.
Perfect.
Yeah, her name is Kat McConnell, and you can find her at Design Kat. She helped me with the themes and tones and just basically gave me a great color palette and a wonderful look to the series.
Oh my God, yeah, she did an awesome job. Now, was there a lot of back and forth between you two in terms of the designs, or did she just nail it right off the bat?
There's a little bit of both. We definitely have a great back and forth about what we both want represented in our art, but she has great instincts, and as soon as she really just sets down to create it, she nails it right away.
Oh, so cool, so cool. All right, Emily, it's been awesome talking to you, but where do folks go to learn more about you and to get your books?
Well, I have a website. It's emilytallman.com, and you can find me on Instagram and social media at Tall's Tales.
All right. And, of course, if you're in the area, come on down. The expo is going until 4:30. It's free to get in. The books are not, so buy some books and talk to Emily.